Welcome to week 13 of Explore the Bible. We're finishing up this quarter. Great quarter. We've been spending it in the book of John. Today we're at John chapter 11. What a great passage, a great story in John 11. So I'm looking forward to this. Now look, we're not going to be covering in the lesson the entire chapter. So you need to read the chapter. You need to read all of John 11 so you get the lead up to this where Jesus is asked to come and he waits before he comes, and then he decides to go. So you need to have that just in your mind, and you might even in your class kind of review that real quickly. But we're going to look at John chapter 11. Before we do, be sure and hit that subscribe button. Hit the like button. We appreciate it when you do that. Comment if you've got questions, if you've got answers or thoughts. Put those in the comment section and then share it with somebody. Okay, share the video. We always love that when video gets shared. Let's look at John 11. So Jesus has already come now, right? He's there with them, and he's having this conversation with Martha. We've got Martha and Mary and Lazarus, a brother and two sisters. Your brother will rise again, Jesus told her. Martha said to him, I know that he will rise again in the resurrection at the last day. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. The one who believes in me, even if he dies, will live. Everyone who lives and believes in me will never die. Do you believe this? Yes, Lord, she told him, I believe you are the Messiah, the Son of God, who comes into the world. You may remember some other instances between Mary and Martha, and even, we give Martha a bad name because Mary's there at the foot of Jesus, and Martha's busy doing the housework, getting things ready, and she complains to Jesus that Mary's not helping any, and Jesus says, Martha, you're busy doing that, but you should be here. Mary's chosen well, that kind of thing, right? But I want you to notice here that Martha has she's been listening, she's taken time, and she's got a great theological understanding, as good as the disciples have. I mean, her understanding of who Jesus is, I think, is clearly at least as deep as the disciples who've been with Jesus for years and walking with him have, because Jesus says, your brother's going to rise again. And she says, well, I know he'll rise again at the resurrection. Okay, she believes in the resurrection. I know that. I'm confident of that. And Jesus says, well, I'm the resurrection. I'm the resurrection and the life. And whoever believes in me will live even if he dies. And everyone who lives and believes in me will never die. Okay, clearly here, he's not saying that they will not experience physical death, because here he says even if he dies, he will live. So he's not talking about physical death. He's talking about eternal separation from God. Right? Do you believe this? And look at her statement. I want you to see this, because we often marvel at Thomas after the resurrection in John chapter 20, when he sees the resurrected Jesus saying, my Lord and my God. But I want you to look at what Martha says a week before that, before Thomas says that, before the crucifixion and the resurrection. Yes, Lord, I believe you are the Messiah, the Son of God who comes into the world. This looks a lot like Matthew 16 and Peter saying, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God, doesn't it? This sounds a lot like it. You are the Messiah, the Christ, the Son of God. What a statement by Martha. What a great statement of faith. And we will preach message after message after message about Peter's statement in Matthew 16, but look at Martha's statement in John 11. She says the same thing. I believe you are the Messiah, the Son of God who comes into the world. I have this belief about who you are, right? And I know this. I mean, she's got a deep faith in Jesus already, doesn't she? An intelligent faith in Jesus. Having said this, she went back and called her sister Mary, saying in private, the teacher is here and is calling for you. I love this designation they have for Jesus. He's the teacher. He's the teacher. That has been so much of their relationship with them. Mary sitting at his feet while he was teaching, right? The teacher is here. He's calling for you. And as soon as Mary heard this, she got up quickly and went to him. Jesus had not yet come into the village, but was still in the place where Martha had met him. So outside the village, where Martha had met him, that's where Mary runs to, right? The Jews who were with her in the house, consoling her, saw that Mary got up quickly and went out, and they followed her, supposing she was going to the tomb to cry there. So she's emotional. They've got the mourners that are there. Some are friends and family. Some are professional mourners. That's what they do. They show up to help with make a show at the funeral kind of thing, right? And so they're there, and they said, well, she must be. They didn't know. They don't know who the teacher is. They didn't hear, right? Because this was said in private. The teacher is here, so she gets up to leave. Well, they get up to go with her, right? And as soon as Mary came to where Jesus was and saw him, she fell at his feet and told him, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. Okay, the teacher is here, and here she says, Lord. She's got a very good understanding of who Jesus is, too. And in this belief, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. You could have saved his life. We sent someone to you. You didn't make it in time. Now, the reality is, if you look at the timing of the whole story of John 11, it appears that even if Jesus would have left immediately, he wouldn't have gotten there in time. It seems to be the case, right? But then there's almost this, you should have been here. You should have known, right? I mean, you're God, and well, he did, okay? But he didn't come. When Jesus saw her crying, and the Jews who had come with her crying, he was deeply moved in his spirit and troubled. Where have you put him? He asked. Lord, they told him, come and see. So they take him to see the tomb. And then we have John 11:35, which is the favorite verse to memorize. If you're looking for a verse to memorize John 11:35. When I was a teenager, that was the one when we had to quote verses. Everybody went to Jesus wept. It was the easiest one, John 11:35. Jesus wept. But boy, in that short verse, we get so much, don't we? Jesus was deeply moved in his spirit and troubled. He was compassionate. He had compassion towards them. His stomach was turning over. That word compassion in Greek is splagnizomai. And splagnizomai literally means the turning over of the bowels. It's that hurt that you have deep in the pit of your gut. When somebody's hurting and you're hurting and you can't do anything to help them, they're just going to have to hurt. You know, this compassion. So we have compassion. He wept out of compassion. He wept for them and what they had to go through. Think about this. Jesus knows what's going to happen, right? He knows what he's going to do. Why is he weeping? You know, many times you'll say, you know, you shouldn't weep. She's not dead. She's just asleep. Remember that when he said that about Jairus' daughter? She's not dead. She's just asleep. Don't weep. But here he wept. And he knew Lazarus was not dead. He was just asleep. Right? He knew what he was going to do. But he also knew that these two ladies that he loved, Mary and Martha, this family that he loved, had to go through great pain for 4 days, hurting, and the days leading up to the death, hurting, so that God could reveal his glory. He's not weeping for Lazarus. He's weeping because of what they're having to go through so that God may show who Jesus is. So the Jews said, see how he loved him. But some of them said, couldn't he who opened the blind man's eyes also have kept this man from dying? Some people, there are always going to be some, right? There are always going to be some. So don't be surprised. Then Jesus, deeply moved again, came to the tomb. It was a cave, and a stone was lying against it. Remove the stone, Jesus said. Martha, the dead man's sister, you hear this? Dead man, there's a stone. I mean, John's going to great lengths to make sure we know he was dead, had been dead. Martha, the dead man's sister, told him, Lord, there's already a stench because he's been dead 4 days. Jesus said, didn't I tell you that if you believed, you would see the glory of God? Didn't I tell you would see the glory of God? He weeps because of what they have to go through to see the glory of God. So they removed the stone. Then Jesus raised his eyes and said, Father, I thank you that you heard me. I know that you always hear me, but because of the crowd standing here, I said this so that they may believe you sent me. So he prays out loud, not because he needs to pray before he does this and whatever, but because he wants to make sure the Father knows, that the crowd knows the Father's involvement in what's happening, right? After he said this, he shouted with a loud voice, Lazarus, come out. And the dead man, this is great. This is such good literature right here. The dead man came out bound hand and foot with linen strips and with his feet wrapped in cloth. And Jesus said to them, unwrap him and let him go. He's still calling him the dead man. He wants to make sure we know he was dead. And now he's alive, right? He's wrapped up, and he says, let him go. Cut him loose. So there's tons of messages around this. Oh, taking off the grave clothes, right? We're not going to go into that, but there's tons of it there. Therefore, many of the Jews who came to Mary and saw what he did believed in him. You have these ones who said, wait, where is it? Here. See how he loved him. There were people that saw it that way, right? Many of the Jews who came to Mary and saw what he did believed in him. But some of them went to the Pharisees and told them what Jesus had done, because some people are always going to do that. Well, we could talk about a lot of things here, but I do want to point out to you that even when he raised a dead man back to life, there were people that wanted to report it to the Pharisees, because we got to get rid of this guy. Even then, some people will never, ever believe. It's just the truth of life. Hey, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. Hope this has been a blessing to you. Thank you for teaching. God bless you for that. Praying for you that you'll have a great week teaching the Word this week. Excited about the next quarter that begins next week. So be sure and like, subscribe. If you haven't already, subscribe, because we've got the next quarter starting up. Share it with others so they get in on the first week of the next quarter. Comment, questions, answers, thoughts, all of that. We will see you next time.